Hello students, today we are doing lesson 9.1 on ratios, and this is a pretty quick lesson because this is just an intro and very easy to follow along and understand what a ratio is. So a ratio is a comparison of one number to another. So one example could be that there are 12 teachers in a, let's go with our little co-op here. Let's say there's 12 teachers. That's a lot though. We don't have 12 teachers, but we'll just say in a school, 12 teachers to every 192 students. Well, and there's 192 students. So this is the way that looks like a fraction, the way I've written it here. And fractions are ratios. When you say 1/2, that means 1 out of every 2. So it's ratio. So ratios can look like fractions, which this one would look like that. You can also see them written like this, 12 to 192. So you're saying 12 teachers to 192 students. And you can also see them written with a colon. And you read it, all of these, when you're talking about ratios, you read them all the same way, 12 to 192. So 12 to 192 can be written as a fraction with the word 2 in between or with a colon. And you'll see them like that in all of your homework. So we can also make this into lowest terms. So the lowest terms would be if I took this fraction, 12 to 192, and I just found my lowest term. So both of these can be divided by 12. If you don't know that, if you don't know they could be divided by 12, remember, we've already done reducing fractions. You can always just divide by 2 and then say, okay, it needs to be divided again by 2 and then by 3. You can just keep doing that. But I know that this can be divided by 12. So that's going to give me 1 when I divide the top by 12. And when I divide the bottom by 12, I'm going to get 6. And so that means for every one teacher in this school, she will have 16 students. Okay? So that's easy, quick. This is what ratios are about, and this is how we do them. Now we're going to do 2 examples, and then I'm going to have you do quite a few examples on your own in the video, and then we're going to check them together. Okay, example 1. If I had the ratio 15 to 21, here's a couple of things that your example 1 is going to have a lot of different instructions to it. The first thing that you might have your homework say, or your book say, is write this 2 other ways. So the 2 other ways would be fraction. Okay, it might also just say write it in fraction form. So that's what you would do. And the other way would be to write it with the word 2 in there. So 15 to 21. Okay, you can also, they might also ask you to write this in lowest terms. Even if it starts like this and they want it in lowest terms, you can leave it like that and put it in lowest terms, or you can change to the fraction, which is usually what students like to do because they're used to seeing it in fractions. So 15 and 21 can both be divided by 3. So when I divide by 3, I get 5/7. So this part should not be new to y'all. This is just putting it into lowest terms, which we have done before. Okay, example 2. Example 2 is a word problem. So I'm going to read it out loud, but I'm also going to write down a few of the things as I say them. It says a baseball team won 8 games. So they won 8 games. Okay, and they lost 10 games. They want you to write a ratio of wins to total games. So they want it wins to total games. Oops, I wrote that wrong. Here, let me erase that. Okay, wins to total games. Okay, so you see that 2 right there? That's going to tell you where either your fraction line goes, your colon, or just the word 2. Okay, so when we say wins to total games, we already know the wins, that's 8. And the total games is what I would need to find out. So I know they played 8 that they won and 10 that they lost. So I would just put those together and I would get 18 total games. So my ratio is 8 to 18. And I could write it like this, or your instructions might say write as a fraction. which would be like that. And it also might say in lowest terms. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in lowest terms. I'm going to divide by 2, and I get 4/9. So that means for every 4 games they won, there were 9 games total. Okay, so that's how you do your ratios and proportions. So, I mean, just ratios, sorry, not proportions yet. We will get to that part. Okay, not in this lesson, but later. So what I'd like you to do is turn to page 282 in your book and do the skills check. It's pretty quick. It's 10 problems, but it shouldn't take you very long at all. So hit pause, do those 10 problems for skills check, and then come back and check them with me. So hit pause now. Okay, you should be back from your skills check. So we're just going to check these real quick. Number 1, it said carob bits to peanuts. And on the side, it gave you a little formula with how many peanuts, how many parts granola, how much raisins, how much carob bits. So on number 1, you should have 1 to 4. Remember, you could have written this any way. And it said do not express in lowest terms. So they just wanted you to write out flat out what it was. So number 2 was granola to raisins. So granola was 3 parts. Raisin was 2. That's all you had to write. And number 3, raisins to peanuts. So the raisins were 2 parts and the peanuts were 4. So this one could have gone into lowest terms, but it asked you not to. So make sure that you read your instructions. Okay, 4, 5, 6, and 7 say write each ratio as a fraction in lowest terms. So number 4 was 12/16. Those can both be divided by 4, so your answer should have been 3/4. If you had 6/8, that just meant you did not go to the lowest term. So you need to just go one more thing and divide again by 2. Okay, number 5 was 6 to 15, and those can both be divided by 3. So you would have gotten, I'm just going to change it into fractions because it's easier to write. So 2/5. Number 6 was 7 to 49. I'm writing it the way that the book showed it, but you probably changed it into a fraction because that's easier to do lowest terms. So that would be 1/7. That's for number 6. Number 7 was 39 over 21. Okay, I know both of those can be divided by 3. I'm not sure if it goes any further. I don't think so, though. No, because this ends up 13, and 21 divided by 3 is 7. So it's just 13 over 7. Okay, 8, 9, and 10 said a softball team won 4 games and lost 5 games. So it's kind of like the example 2 that we just did. So they're going to ask us some questions about that. On number 8, it says wins to losses. Wins to losses. So they won 4 games and lost 5 games. So that would be 4 to 5. It doesn't say to put in lowest terms or not, but this one can't be put into lowest terms. So that's okay. Okay, number 9 said losses to wins. Losses to wins. So we're just going to take that same one that was wins to losses, and we're going to go the other way around. So we're going to have 5 to 4. Okay, and then the last one, number 10, was wins to total. Wins to total. So we already know that our wins was 4, but to find our total, we need to add up our wins and losses up here, so that would be 9. So those are your answers for 8, 9, and 10. So hopefully those weren't too hard, and now you're ready to do your homework for lesson 9.1. They'll be just like these types of problems. That's all.